Welcome to today's episode of Free to Lead, Journeys of Leaders, driven by passion, inspired by purpose. I've got a very close friend of mine on the show today. I go back now 25 years, 26 years with Scott Forgy. We both actually pretty much do similar stuff. Our client base isn't quite the same necessarily, but I think I'm excited about today's episode because we have an opportunity to really distinguish what we mean by coaching, which is not generally what people think of when they think of coaching. Scott's got a very varied background that got him to where he is, and I'll leave Scott the opportunity to introduce himself. So, Scott, hi, welcome to the show, and give us your backstory, and then let's get into what we're going to talk about today.
All right, great. Will, first, great seeing you. We've been playing together for 25 or so years, and it's just been an honor. And it's lovely to see your practice flourish and you really reach out to fulfill what you're up to. So, how did I get into this world of coaching and what I'm doing? It actually started pretty young. As of late, I've been working in Silicon Valley for the last 10 or 12 years at enterprise scale with companies like Apple and PayPal and Google, and leading things inside of companies, as well as whole events and whole systems for 24-hour fitness and companies like that, where we look at sales and experiential understandings of what customers actually experience and how do we enhance that? How do we have that work in a way that drives revenue as opposed to trying to drive revenue and who cares about experience? So I've had a big background in it. Before that, I led programs. I was a trial lawyer. I loved trying cases, did a lot of civil rights. But what got me into this was when I was 10, I was a judo player. And I had this mystical experience like 6 months into it, where everything went into slow motion. And I was 11. And I watched myself throw this kid. Judo is like wrestling. You stand up and then you throw him on the ground and wrestle. And everything went into slow motion. And I remember looking at the sensei, our sensei, this Japanese guy. There's a lot of Japanese Nisei here in Boca Raton, where I grew up, and didn't know he was a Zen master. We were just doing judo. And in this slow motion movement, I watched everything happen, and it was just magical. And I remember asking the Zen master, what was that? And he told me the name of the throw. Goshi. And I said, no, that's not what that was. And I knew he knew what I was talking about. And he knew I knew, but it was in the unsaid. So that world of performance at the extreme and getting into the zone, which is what we call it now, in every aspect of life, intrigued me from 11. So I got a degree in philosophy, religion, political science, went to law school. I coach a lot of musicians, actors, athletes. It's where your humanness and how human beings work and performance work, where those come together, whether it's companies or on teams, that's where I tend to work. So that's my long backstory. And then I led ontological programs, and that's where I met Will, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah. Just for those listening, Scott actually trained me at one point. So you did the kind of the training, a lot of basic training, learning all the material, all of that stuff, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, being worked all day till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and doing it all again. That was about a 2-3 month period. And then you got to go out on the road with already existing leaders like a journeyman. So you go along with this leader because we want to get this from that leader, and then go with that leader and this leader. And I was pretty stiff, pretty straight by the book. So they sent me with Scott. And I'm like, okay, I know Scott because I used to be on the staff, and Scott would come into town. He's a friendly guy, jokey. This would be great. I'm going to have a lot of fun. And then he starts leading the program, and I'm trying to follow him in the manual. And I'm like, he's 3 chapters ahead. But hang on, where is he? And then just turns to me and smiles and goes, okay, like, you take over. I'm like, I wanted to kill him. I wanted to kill you. I had no idea where you were. Just stop in that moment and just get, where are we? Okay, we're here. And it's like that moment you said in judo where you just actually get to what's going on. And it was a real moment, if you like, in being free from the following the manual and following the exact word for word and being in the room with the people. And that's one of the things that I started right there to get from you and opened that up in my own leading as I moved forward. One aspect is, and the other was, thank you so much. Like any learning moments, that's what they're like. Yeah. And this kind of coaching you and I do is not the norm. Okay.
Yeah.
Mostly, I'll let Scott talk, but mostly in my experience, people have gone from A to B and they'll teach you how to go from A to B. So they've managed to implement this system. I'll teach you how to implement this system. So it's not really coaching. It's a kind of coaching, but it's not what we're talking about. It's more like they will train you. They will give you a training, follow the training. Whereas
Mhm.
that's not what we do. And I'll leave Scott to pick up from there. Hey, I'll give it back to you, Scott, just like you did to me. Hey.
No, that's really great because one of the roles that I played in the Valley was what's called an enterprise agile coach. And agile is just a way of dealing with what's complex, not complicated, but the actual complex and emergent, which you have to use the scientific method for, because the truth is we don't know the answer. It happens in working through it. And it turns out that almost all complex adaptive systems, you got to use a more agile approach as opposed to come up with a blueprint, come up with the diagrams, and then execute, which even NASA gave up on that. You just can't figure everything out ahead of time. It doesn't work that way.
Yes.
And
I've
so,
been asked to go into companies, and I go into companies. And I say, can you send us your syllabus so you can tell us what you're going to teach us? And I'm like, how can I do that? I haven't met you yet. I need to know what you guys are dealing with. That's what I'm going to go to work on.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no way to know up front. There's the usual suspects, but there's really no way to know up front what people are dealing with, what barriers are in their way, or what's missing, or what connections they haven't made. And that's how we tend to look at it, is those three things. What's in the way, what's missing, what connection have they just not made? And for Will and I, it was less about training. So when I went into, I think I was at eBay PayPal at the time, I just sat down and said, I think what you think we're doing is training. And they were like, yeah, we're coaching. And I said, okay, we got to spend a few hours. And we really got on the board the difference between training, which is what to do and how to do it to produce a result. Either it doesn't or it doesn't. But that's all skill building, additive. And then there's advising. If I were you, here's what I would do, which has its point. It's in the world of consulting, bringing a new technology, something new, some new way of thinking that people don't already have, or some skill set. But coaching is an odd mixture of things because it's a little like training, but it's not really. Because what our focus is on is how they see and experience the world, and then shifting and shaping that. Because unfortunately, people never take actions. They only react to the world and the concerns and the worries and the wants and desires and how they understand the world. They can't do anything else. So then the skill in coaching is actually first being able to see what world is this person in, and their behaviors will make total sense. And then you go, okay, but you want a different result. So instead of changing behaviors, we actually look at how do we shift how the world seems to them, how they see it. And it could be looking for mental models, big models that have, oh, let's look at it a different way. But people who are coaches have a number of different mental models that we can use and deploy to be able to shift how someone sees the world so they fulfill what they're out to fulfill. Now, sometimes we have to say, okay, there's a skill to go build. That's where it gets confusing for people. Sometimes we have to do consulting. Like I have to hop in and say, no, here's how you do a pitch deck. We got to actually get you to understand what the problem, solution, marketplace value is. That's pretty much pure consulting. You give them a model, but everybody uses the same model. So the thing that gets lost with coaches is a lot of coaches really, they think they're emotional support, which is awesome. Yay, keep going, all of that stuff. Everybody could use at least one or two cheerleaders. I think it's useful.
Yes.
And yet it doesn't shift how the world seems to you, how you see the world. So coaching is really that fine art of shifting the world so that people have the performance they want, the results they want, as opposed to hacks, new techniques. People ask me all the time, how do I communicate? It's not a how. It's a
Yeah.
completely communications from a completely different model. The words don't really matter.
Right. Now, if I try and break that down to the average business owner, business leader listening to this right now, I'm just always trying to think both places. So how's this relevant to me? What are these guys talking about? My strap line, if you like, is transform the business owner, you transform the business. Why?
Yeah.
Because if the business owner is holding back, not taking the action, even if they know what to do, but they're not doing it, or they're fearful or hesitant or doubting themselves, that's where we go to work. That's where we're going to get, well, what's going on with you? Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
That's a really good point, Will, because the biggest thing I see that's in the way of most people who are not having the kind of results they want, or they've had some results, but the next level is escaping them and they keep going through the same thing over and over. There's a lot of emotions in the way, a lot of hesitation, a lot of fear, a lot of just plain fear, threat, emotions like I want to be known as this. I have nothing to do with the business. It's more to do with the human being.
Yeah.
And until we directly address those and have that shift for people, there's going to be a natural hesitation and a bit of putting things off. And some of the construction companies I coach, even down to the level of people who are on the ground, they hesitate to have conversations and millions of dollars go by. And when we ask them why, they say the same thing. I knew what to do. I just didn't want to upset or cause a problem, or all valid things. It's just not that useful.
Yeah, I'm working, I don't think I've shared with you, but I'm working in the Middle East quite a lot right now. I'm leading a leadership program out there, and they want to be in what we call fitra. That's a Arabic word, Scott, fitra, and it means a few different things. One of the definitions in Islam is it's the true nature God gave to you, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's beautiful. It's like if I was a jazz musician, I've got this and now I'm riffing from this, because all I want to do is get them back to their fitra, get back to that real, like you say, when you're in that moment and you just, all you're dealing with is what's in front of you, not your mind, not your feelings, not your thoughts. It's just what's in front of you. And you're free to do that. This podcast is called Free to Lead. If I could give people, if you're in the program, sure. If we're working one-on-one, sure. But if we can give people some access to that freedom to just be yourself, to be, and not try to be like someone else. Not, oh, how am I supposed to do this? Well, he said do it like that. Oh, I've watched that leader and they're like this, so I'll be like that. But you're not really being you. So it's very easy to create that. Typically in a male-dominated environment, a woman will end up trying to lead like a man, which is never going to be as powerful as a woman leading in a true feminine essence.
I think that's really great. I mean, when you and I looked at training other leaders to lead programs, it wasn't about leading. When you and I were together, we have different backgrounds, different strengths, right? What I kept saying is, don't try and lead like me. And Richard, who trained me, said, don't try and lead like me, lead like you. You being you is the most powerful and authentic expression of leadership.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times I see people looking at books, or they ask me, you going to deal with leadership styles? And I'm like, what does that mean? You're going to pretend to be some way? I always love Silicon Valley, since I work in the Valley so much. That show where one of the guys always tries to dress like Steve Jobs. He gets the black turtleneck and everything. And it's the epitome of ultimately pretense. And it's so hard to get that if you just look back at who you were at 5 or 10 and what you were interested in and why you cared and what's important about this company or empowering people, that natural leadership and all those barriers disappear because you disappear to you. You're just, like you said, focusing on what's in front of you and the difference you want to make.
Yeah.
Versus how do I look and how do I appear? Oh my God, that's horrible.
Yeah. If you're funny, be funny. You were extremely funny leading the program we're talking about. You were extremely funny. And then it's my go. And I'm not you. So I'm
Yeah,
this guy. Okay. I just got to be me.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
funny. We got trained in one of the few disciplines, as I've gone through a lot of disciplines and looked at things, that really said that if you really light on fire your self-expression, everything in life works,
Yeah.
and it will be necessarily different. So most leadership programs, they have a formula, and if you do X, Y, and Z, or you give a speech and you follow this script, it's going to work out. And the truth is, those are great constructs. You should read them all. You should look at them all. And then, as Charlie Parker said, you just take all of that learning and you throw it away and just wail.
Yeah.
You
Just go
know,
and be yourself.
that's
Do
why I
what's
love
gonna-
jazz. Yeah, it's why I love jazz so much. I'm a percussionist and I play a bit. But first, you have to develop the, as we call it in music, the chops, the
Yeah.
skill set to be able to play. But then the skill set becomes transparent, and it's all about self-expression in the moment. That's why I like jazz. Classical music actually is like that too. It's just people don't know it. They're not actually playing what's on the page because there's not as much on the page as you might think. It all has to get created, and people
Yeah.
are scared to death. But if you just try it, you find out it turns out. And I guess that's what we do, is free people up from whatever stops them from being their full selves.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if you do any work, but I like to make sure that the business owners doing what they're doing inside of a created future for themselves. So I don't use the word future. I use like your vision. What's your
Mhm.
vision for all of this? Why are you even doing all of this? And at first, the conversation is a bit strange to people, or they come out with some already
Yeah.
thing that has nothing to do with, it doesn't connect. It's an explanation. It sounds good. No, what lights you up? And I get into, not into trouble, but I get people saying, no, you can't say that. I said, because what I'm up to in the Middle East is I'm leading programs that cause a transformation in people's leadership. So for me, the bigger picture is I'm transforming the leadership of the Middle East. And if they can't say that, they don't need, they won't like that. It's not for them. It's for me, to empower me in what I'm up to. And so if you're running your business, what's your thing? What is the thing that, if it's just about the money, it ain't going to last. You're going to burn
No,
it.
it's never enough.
No.
Yeah. That's funny. It's one of my first things when I talk to a lot of people. I ask them, so why are you doing this business?
Perfect.
And they'll frequently just go, oh, to make a bunch of money and get rich. Okay. Yeah. So turns out your customers, it's not a value prop for them. They really don't care about that you make money. And that's shocking to people. What's hard for people to understand at a very high level, and for new business owners or people that are entrepreneurs or just leading for their first time, it's really important to understand that people see how much you really care about the art and the craft of what you're doing for its own sake. And if you can do that in a way that helps other people and makes money, what you have is a business. But if it's just about making money, you should just get in the stock market, because it's not about value. It's just about trying to make something happen. And once people get that mindset, it frees them up to get back to why they started in the first place, what they love about it, what they love to express, what they love to happen over there with the customer when they get their software in their hands, or what they can do with it, whatever their product is. And it is reigniting that original flame. There's so much talk about how to do business and being clever. But if I look at some of the Apple products that I use, and I coach for Apple, I just love having them in my hands. They work really well. Super simple. They do everything you want. And you can see the imprint from a guy who said, how about we have this work for humans? It's still there in the DNA of the company. Hopefully it'll last for a while. We'll see. So I think reigniting that and giving people permission to really geek out on what they love, that's rare. I don't think there's that much coaching out there in the world, or training out there that says leadership's really about being all in on what you love, including people, and empowering them and having them win.
right down to a really grassroots level. I was coaching a carpenter. He makes bespoke
Hmm.
furniture and tables and stuff like that. And he's trying to make it work and he's trying to scale it and stuff. And the breakthrough came when I said, look, why do you even do this in the first place?
Hmm.
Well, I just love the wood and I love the what we got to that who he actually is an artist. Well, he is, but he's not it's not that he's a business owner, it's not that he's a carpenter, it's not that he's a joiner. He's an artist. His pieces of work are pieces of art. The way he gets the grain to flow together from two separate pieces of wood, but it looks like all one piece. It's
Hmm.
art, man. And once he got that, he was lit up. He was lit up. He wanted to make these tables. Before it was like, how can we mass produce tables? You're not. Everyone is a piece of art. So you can have
Hmm.
a whole other conversation once you connect someone to their passion, to why they're even doing this, whatever it is they're doing in the first place. And
Hmm.
even if originally it was just the money, they can now look and see what does that make available? What is that? How does that work for you? Another client, and he was just, it was about the money. And then what does that make available? He says, all my guys, and they're all Filipino guys, they
Oh,
can
cool.
get money, they can pay for a new house, they can pay for education and healthcare for their kids. And he started to go off on that and create that. And he went, wow, I'm creating great lives for all the people I work with. And what we do creates cheaper healthcare for all the people that we're producing it for. And it was a new world opened up after that. It's fun.
Yeah. If it's not, you know me, my tagline at the end of whenever I'm coaching, even my kids repeat it. It's funny. Everybody knows it. But the bottom line comes down to all the coaching that I do is know yourself as powerful enough and then go play together, play hard. So I'm always like, go play together, play hard, go get out there, play. If it doesn't occur as play, you're doing something wrong or you're
Yes.
not fulfilling that. And it's funny, you remind me of a couple of years ago, I was doing a project, and I'm sure Andrew won't mind me saying this, but at Panda Express at the headquarters in LA, and we have all these executives, all these people in the room. It was really a lot of fun. And I was asking him afterwards because I didn't know him very well, and he was just super great. And I said, why Panda? Why food? And he said, it was the easiest way I could see to lift up people and have them be proud and have them have a job. People that couldn't go to school, people that work in food services. He created a whole enterprise and a whole empire
Yeah.
to provide people the kind of joy and self-respect and advantages that he had. And he
Yeah.
loves doing that. He was a ball to deal with. So
Yes.
that expression of this is why I'm doing it and this is the joy, I think goes away really quick for people as they confront some of the things you have to confront in companies, stuff you
Yeah.
just got to be responsible for,
Yeah.
raising money and dealing with tables and
Yeah.
investors and shareholders. If I took a company public and I deal with shareholders all the time in the SEC, you can get bogged down in that and forget that you're actually an artist. You're out to create something and cause an experience for yourself and others. I
Great.
think that's really great.
Yeah, I think as we come to a close today, one thing people could go away with is the question, what am I up to? What is it? Why am I even
Yeah.
in the business I'm doing in the first place? What is it? Why do I even want to be doing
Yeah.
it? Or do I want to
What
be?
aspect of it do I love? I talk to accountants and our joke is no one ever wanted to be an accountant. Accounting's a lot of fun. It's like crossword puzzles. So I
Yeah.
ask them, what is it? What part of it do you enjoy? What's the joy in this?
Yeah.
And people, although it'll vary even in the same job, with people who are highly effective, they can tell you what the joy is right away.
The bit they
Yeah.
love. What is
So
it
that's
about
a
it?
good question for people to look at.
Yeah.
What is it I love about this? Or what's the moment where it's just aha? It's like the ball goes into the goal and somebody yells, go, and then it's time for a beer.
Great. Well,
And
on
then
that
do it
note,
all again the next day.
yeah. So Scott, how do people reach out to you if they want to reach out to you? They like what you've been saying, or they like the vibe. How would they reach you?
I'm really easy to find. I'm on LinkedIn and I coach at LinkedIn. I
Right.
coach the diversity, inclusion, belonging section and I have for years. And you can find me at my website at which is un.com. Be-un just means it's Latin. It means be one. When we're
Yes.
one with our customer, we're one with our employees, we're one with the world, the environment, everything just works. When we work against things and individuals, it doesn't. So that's what we call it, b-oon, b-oon.com. We have some programs coming up and other stuff, but I'm pretty informal and semi-retired these days. So I just tell people reach out to me on LinkedIn or send me an email. It's easy to find me.
Brilliant. All right, Scott, it's been a joy to have you on the show and actually just to have a conversation with you after all these years. It's so great.
Yeah.
More of it.
It's really great. Circling around. It's really great. Coming full
All right.
circle.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you.
All right. Cheers.